So the last question was, what do you see as the connection between the very early stuff that you did? Do you see, you said that you matured a lot. What does that mean?
I've matured in being a little bit more objective and being a little tougher on myself as a songwriter. Mm-hmm. And, people I love as songwriters, Bob Dylan, John Prine, John Hyatt, who I've gotten to open for 3 or 4 times, saying something and not just indulging myself. There are actually things on my first record that are nice and innocent and very heartfelt and organic I'm still really proud of.
Good.
And then other stuff where it was like poppy, contrived, angsty stuff. So I'm happy that I'm still proud of some of that stuff. My most recent record, I like more of it now. I'm more comfortable with maybe losing some fans of the really early stuff and knowing that I'm going to the right spot.
Yeah, but you said that what you learned from working in bars was that, and reading your book, Light and Shade, is that you have to be in control. You have to decide what's going to be.
Yes. I did go back to Bath after the first record, and I redid a couple of things, and we had a lot of bleed over in with the instruments, and I was in the same room because we were trying to keep something authentic, where scratch vocals weren't scratch vocals. I wanted to keep a performance, so that's what John did. We wrote it down from the beginning.
Yeah.
And he's like, we want to keep something that feels like you sang with us while we did it. Mm-hmm. And so that's scary.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful because I only fixed maybe 5 lines in the whole record.
That's pretty good.
And then it may not be perfect.
Yeah.
I may sing it better now on stage. But it was so refreshing and wonderful to go, did a record in a month, done. Instead of my first record took me a year. My second record took me a year.
Why did it take so long?
Why did it take so long?
Yeah.
2 ADD people working on it is why.
Yeah, there you go.
We had the luxury of fixing and adding and adding.
And if they're ADD like that, they're never happy.
And your ego can get in the way. And John was very good about, we did one where I rocked it, like the Bobby McGee version you saw. I rocked it the second time, and I got real hyper-focused on, I really like that take. And he goes, listen to the band. He said, the band sounds like, he said like this, listen to the band. The band sounds like a bar band. It doesn't sound like a piece of art. So I went back, and I was more innocent in the other take.
So you were listening to the vocals.
I got all about it was all about, and it's not so much all about me in it, but that's what I was doing. And he reminds you, a really good producer reminds you, you're trying to make a piece of art that is going to be enjoyable on every level.
That's right. So what's the best gig you've ever done? That's a hard one because you're going to say they're all pretty good. But there's one gig where you felt, this really was, I felt on top of this. It was perfect. As good as it's ever going to be so far.
Yeah. And it is probably not the biggest gig I've done. I think the bigger the gig, sometimes the further away everybody seems, the less. There's a very important element to my shows, which is in between the songs, what you say.
Yeah, and you're certainly not stuck for words.
The thing is, I never get to plan it, but with a smaller audience, you almost feel
More
like
intimate.
they're one person. So there's this collective thing, and they're so close to you, they're waiting for something to break the ice. And when you find that moment...
But you have got a gift for that, Jenny. You really do.
Thank you.
I'm watching the lead-in when I was on YouTube, just seeing some of your songs, and you're just so totally relaxed, and it's great. It's like you're playing amongst friends, and they're
That's
listening
how it
to
feels
you.
It should be. So my best gig would be probably a Little Danville Royal Theater, which you were watching, where I end up talking to some people from the audience, but they're like so with me, and whatever they're giving back, which is utter attention, or you've made them laugh, and then there's this thing that you keep topping each other, and you've got their attention, then you let your guard down. I feel my guard has been most let down in that little space. It's probably maybe a 300-person little theater, not fancy. Lights go out, everybody's there front and center. But it was like a 2012 show, and it's like I was so vulnerable. It's like you have a lot of work and anxiety before any show, and you wonder sometimes, why am I doing this? Then you get on stage, this thing, lights go out, you start your thing, and you're like, oh, I remember that I am actually good at this. Or I'm not good at everything, I'm good at what I've done.
So technique, Jenny, you're coming into a new gig.
Yeah.
Do you have, for the mood, have you already prearranged your songs, or do you get there and say, you know what, I think we'll start with this one? No.
So I do the set list, and then my guys are so used to me now, I've probably stuck to a set list in the last 15 years. And so what happens is,
You change it according to the feedback.
Yeah. All of a sudden we rock out, and it's like, you know what? The next thing would be to keep rocking out, being able to take them on a ride. And sometimes I start with something rocking. Sometimes I start with something just, I like starting with vulnerable songs, so I can get myself there fast.
Yeah, that's great, because everyone has, when you're working with a bigger band, when you've got a 10 or 12-piece band, it's more difficult to swap around. So, Jennie, I've got to ask you, why not a book?
Oh, such a good question. Now, I have heard I'm not supposed to talk too much about it if I'm writing a book. I feel like I have a big story to tell, and I've been through a lot in my life. Some of it has been, the ride of my music career is still small and independent and not known to everybody, but it's known to a lot of people. I would love to write about it. And then I think, I don't know who all would be interested in the stuff that I want to say. I want to make sure I have my humor in there and that I'm saying what I want to say. When I was 3, my mom asked me what I wanted to do, and I was like, you're right. And then I think having attention deficit in most of your life, it's like songs are the perfect thing for me to write. But I really want to work hard, and I've kind of already started.
As you know, Jennie, the more people you meet, the more people open up with you. The more you realise there are some fantastic stories that should be told.
Agree, yeah.
And especially with these days when you've, as you said, you've got a degree in addiction counselling. And I think that whole thing is part of who you are, and it's part of what your songs are about. But when you write a book, it's got to be who you really are behind that.
Why am I, and if I'm a good songwriter at all, where did the songs come from? So that stuff that happened before I ever wrote a song.
Yeah.
I just finished John Cleese's book.
Yes.
And
what a character.
What a character.
Is. Yeah.
And I was engrossed the whole way, and he barely spoke except in the end about Monty Python. I don't read a lot of fiction at all. I really love reading about people in the entertainment industry and where they came from first. People have started asking me to come to speak to their groups, women's groups, elementary schools, and I've already done it. It's so weird. It's like,
but it's good fun, isn't it?
It's good fun, and who knew you had something to say about little girls, and self-esteem, and with all the bullying things that go on in life, especially with young girls.
Yeah.
I have a whole world that I can speak about with 7th grade girls. And then the next group I spoke to were a bunch of business women just trying to succeed at whatever their business was. And one of my biggest things to tell them was, you got to be really good to other women. And that's why I do what I do. I don't want to call it an envy, but I had a desire to do what other people were doing.
So coming back to your music, so you've written about experiences that you've been in. What's next for you now? I'm
going to put a couple of live CDs out from the shows that we were talking about. A couple of places that I felt were really special, imperfect, but special. I'm going to put those out. I have a couple of covers on there that I'd always wanted to do. John the Revelator, and I Put a Spell on You. I always wanted to do that, so I finally did it.
I love that song.
Well, I'll give it to you as soon as I get it mixed.
That is really good. Wow, that's one of my all-time favorites. Yes,
mine too.
She did.
Joss Stone did it, Creedence did it, and Nina Simone did it. So I was inspired by hers first. My version will be probably more closely related to Annie's, but I do my own style. And going back to talking about Bonnie Raitt, I had to really stop listening to her because I loved her so much. She was such an inspiration to me. She and Mavis Staples. When I started doing this, I was like, I have to find my own voice. My next step is I'm going to make another record with John Parish and probably, use my bass player, who is Bill Ritter, but also use Billy Fuller again, who's Robert Plant's current bass player. I'll use him. My keyboard player, my drummer, John Whitman and Greg McGurk, and Brett Lottie, and maybe Paul Holdman again. And, of course, John Parish plays on so many things. He's a very musical drummer. He plays like to my songs. He doesn't sit and go, and it's when he does his drum things, he is the hardest guy for my guys to emulate, because John is he doesn't just do typical things. He's playing drums like so I'm going to make another record.
Good.
And just keep going.
Do you have the record in mind already?
No, I have 5 records in mind. So what I'll do is have about 50 song ideas, some complete, some not, and then I'll see what ones stick together best and have a nice thread. Well,
I hope to come down and hear you play. Not hope, I will, because you're local, and so am I. And it's been absolutely wonderful meeting you and talking to you. I love everything that you've done. I must say, before I started listening to your music, I was never really a great country fan.
Yeah.
But I don't think I class a lot of your music as just country. It's kind of...
And I have never classified any of it as country, but I think because, and as we're sitting here with our 2 different accents, I think a lot of people, especially not in the United States, but in the world, would hear me speak and hear some of my stuff and think, they'd think that kind of, there is a Hank Williams Sr. influence, I think, in any good folk songwriter. So, but taking those little kind of folky country ideas and then adding the soul production and a soul vocal delivery, I think, takes it to something maybe that's not a true identifiable genre. So, but I like doing all kinds of things. So yes, you have to come to a show. I think the show is different than any of my records. I'd love to do what I do.
Well, it's definitely going to happen, and then we'll do a follow-up interview about the show.
All right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this was a fascinating interview with Jennie Devoe, and actually, I've got to say that Rob is sitting here behind me.
Rob's my husband.
Yeah, Rob's her husband. Hi, Rob. Rob is filming this for Jennie. It's a fascinating interview. We've actually covered a lot of ground.
We've covered a lot of ground, and I have to say also, you take me to that place when I started meeting all of my British friends. I love your demeanor, and I love your voice and your personality.
Thank you.
And you have, there's something calming about, not maybe speaking with every British person that I've met, but just I will use a British term, you're very affable.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time.
Oh, no, it's your time. So, everybody at Glowtime Radio, this was our interview with Jennie Devoe, and we're going to hear some music of hers coming right up. So, Sandy, going to give you a song list as long as your arm. And, Jennie, it was an absolute pleasure meeting with you. And we're going to hear some music of hers coming right up. So, Sandy, going to give you a song list as long as your arm. And, Jennie, it was an absolute pleasure meeting with you.
Thank you.
So, goodbye to everyone at Glowtime Radio. See you soon.